Welcome back to our series on creating an 8-bit console and development kit in TypeScript and with AI. I've lost track of how many episodes this is now, so no number today. Today we're basically going to create another editor, and we're building up towards being able to include sprites and tiles and things in our game, and we just need a bit of tooling to make that pleasant. I don't really want to hand assemble palettes and sprites and things. I'm far too lazy, and fortunately it is not 1982, so it's a lot easier not to do that. So today we're going to build a palette editor. Before I launch into that, I just want to show a few changes I've made. I mentioned in one of the last episodes I'd do a bit of refactoring. Our application folder in the dev kit, which is where most of the change has been, I have kind of rejigged into a slightly nicer structure, sort of different components, our project explorer, editors I'll come back to in a minute, the debugger and the chat, and I've broken some components out as well into smaller components, so it's, it was getting a bit, some of the stuff was getting a bit monolithic. I've done some refactoring. I did that a mix of by hand and with Claude. It was a mix, whatever felt best, whatever seemed simplest. Some stuff was really simple, some stuff was a bit more involved. So I've just tidied things up a little bit. So we're going to build a palette editor. And, again, I mentioned the editors folder. We're going to have lots of different kinds of editor by the time we're done. I've got an assembly editor. At the moment, that's the one we've been working on. This is this is the Monaco editor that understands assembly syntax highlighting and can do an assemble and all that stuff. I probably still need to do some refactoring in here. I want to pull out, and I'm going to need to pull out a more formal kind of build process, but I will worry about that in a couple of episodes' time. But I think this will change again. It's a little bit muddled at the moment. We'll come back to that. The palette editor should be simpler. So I've written a spec for this, as per usual. It's quite an involved spec because I actually want to make a few changes as part of this. And time allowing at the end, I'm going to actually update our core system palette to include some kind of like classic colours from the 8-bit era. So I'm going to include a palette for the BBC, which is, was my bread and butter as a kid. I'm not going to include the flashing colours that it had. I'm going to put the Spectrum 48K colours in there and the C64 colours in there. You've got some nice classic 8-bit colours to play around with on our made-up console. So that's if time allows. We'll see how we get on. If not, I'll do it out of camera, as it were, or maybe in a short episode after this one. In any case, I've written a spec. It starts off as per usual. I'm pointing it very explicitly at how palettes are configured. And the first thing we need to do, this is partly because I didn't think of this when I created a project structure. I was so focused on the sprites and the tiles, I forgot about the fact that we've got dynamic palettes. And to edit a sprite, you need a palette. I'm going to begin by adding a palettes folder to our project file structure. I'm not going to worry about fixing up old projects. I've just, I had that My Awesome project that had nothing in it. I've deleted it. But we're going to basically have a pbin file, which are the 1K blocks of palette information. And the way this is structured is if you're using a 4-bit per pixel mode, so 16 colours per pixel, you can have 64 different palettes. And you can swap palettes on scan lines, if you recall. If you're using an 8-bit per pixel mode, you've got 4 palettes you can configure. So ultimately there's a 1K block of bytes in our memory that we can put palette data into. You could do this at runtime too, and you could change those palettes on the fly in assembler. But I want to make it possible to just kind of like preload in some sensible palettes. Hence the palette editor. I want to create a palette. We're going to create a default palette called palette.pbin. When it gets created, it will just be a zeroed out palette. I think when I've done the changes to enable like BBC, Spectrum and stuff, I'll probably put some default palettes in based on those, but I don't have those now, so we'll just zero everything. And then I wanted to just add one more thing, a config.json file, and that's going to contain some settings that we'll need across the various graphical editors. The main one of which is what mode are they working in, what screen mode. Everything we've done so far is mode 0, and it's all actually inputted in our console, so we'll start with mode 0. That's a 4-bit per pixel mode. And then we can lean on that in our tooling so that we know how to present and edit the various data files. So we're going to get that as phase 1. Phase 2 is to have a single source of truth for palette. It's actually in 2 places at the moment. It's in the image generator and a web GPU renderer. It's in a slightly different form in both. The image generator, if you recall, is a thing that you can load up an image and convert it to bytes and assembler to display it. So loading screens, basically, things like that. Menus, perhaps, whatever. And then the web GPU renderer is the web GPU renderer. And if you recall, and I want it to stay like this, because the system palette is basically fixed, it's baked into the shader. But at the moment, it's actually baked into the shader. As it's hand coded in there. What I want to do is take something like the I can't remember where I've put the image generator. It might move around. It's still in components. I've not put it anywhere sensible. Okay. In here, the image generator also has a copy of the palette. So I want to move that to a single source of truth and have them both, make use of a single source of truth. And in the case of the web GPU renderer, I want it to build the shader by reading that. So I still want it to form part of the shader, but I wanted to construct the shader dynamically. It should only happen once, from the source of truth. Then I can edit the palette, the system colours. Phase 3, finally create a palette editor. We wanted to open up as an editor on our editor space, so I should have. I have got it running, but I don't have a project loaded. If you recall, our tabs appear in here. It's going to appear as a normal editor tab, and and then just to begin with, I'm a bit in my head. This is not going to help with a great output. In my head, I'm slightly unclear as to how I want this thing to be. I've got a rough idea. I want it to have these basic features. I want it to have a split pane, so top being the p-bin we're editing, and the bottom the set of system colours. I think we need to show all system blocks at once. It's possible, like if you're doing strobing effects or something, you need to see all the palette blocks to see how the colours lay out across them. So if you're shifting palettes between scan lines, really you want to be able to see your full set of palette blocks and the sort of trend through them. So it needs to show all the palette blocks at once. I've just reminded it, how that works. But we also need to be slightly demarked so that we can see the different palette blocks. I've left that very vague, but I don't. My UX brain doesn't have great ideas at the moment, so I'll see what pops out. I want to use drag and drop to pull things from the system palette into the palette block. Actually, I have another feature which is we should be able to drag and drop between our palette blocks. So we want to be able to, so if we've got a palette block, we want to put the same red in various places. We should be able to put red in various places. And then we need to, drag the same red across so we don't have to remember what we picked from the palette block below. And then we need to save a save feature that saves a block back to our pbin file. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So that's the goal. I'm going to feed all this to Claude. I have thought about, it's quite a lot to put in a context window. Claude's got quite a big context window now, and it's pretty good at staying on track. I thought about putting this into completely different, specs, feeding it to it separately. But I think it'll be okay as one spec, and there is a like a thread through it. So I'm going to keep it as one spec, and ask Claude to do this for us. Okay, I've already got Claude running, and off it goes. As per usual, I'll probably snip Claude doing this stuff because it's not terribly interesting at this point. and then we'll revisit after each phase and discuss, and we'll see what pops out. Always a surprise. I should just note all the specs I've been writing. They're all, I'm saving them all in the GitHub repo, so you can go and read them, go and look at them. They're all there. Yeah. Okay, we're back. I had neglected to tell it to pause between phases, so it actually did phase 1 and phase 2 before I realised, and I quickly got in and said please stop before phase 3, so we could take a look at what it was doing. I just corrected a slight thing it got wrong. It got this path wrong. I realised I was changing it before talking. However, I've not looked at anything else that it's done. I watched it do its bits and pieces for the most part, and it seemed to be making sensible changes. I think it's just made a little change here. Maybe it was now in here. Yeah, being not used. It just started phase 3 when I stopped it. So we'll see if I've left it in a partial state or where we are. It's probably worth us just restarting our server. Make sure we're in a sensible place, and let's have a look at what our system is. Okay. Yes, this is the path it got wrong. It's got it wrong in web GPU rendering as well. Just missing one of those, I think. Yeah. Okay. Okay, fine. Let's create a new project. Create new. We're going to use my awesome project again. I deleted it. Oh. I don't use Edge. Normally that's a trouble. Code my awesome project. Okay, palettes.pbin, main.asm. I think at the moment it should still say no editor. Okay, main.asm. We can't see the config.json in here because we haven't got a JSON editor yet. We will put a JSON editor in there. Let's just have a chat. That's absurdly big, isn't it? I need to make that default to a smaller size. Yeah, so I mean, it's broadly done what I asked in phase 1 and phase 2. I saw it create the code for the default.pbin and it was zeroing it. I think that's in Project Explorer. Actually, I can't remember where that stuff is. It's a dialog, isn't it? Project dialog. There we go. Project dialog. It's in here. I believe is where it does there. There's the code to create the create a new project. Set project name. Set loading. Set error. It's in the store, perhaps. My brain has just gone absolutely empty. My brain has just gone completely empty. Okay. File, new project, services, file system service. Oh goodness me! Come on, James. Yeah, fine. Okay, here we go. So here's a pbin. Yeah, so it sets it to, just writes it all to 0. Fine. It really would help if my brain was working. That's the TypeScript issue. Works. It's not used at right binary file. Just not used. Okay, so I did not review this file. Interestingly, I just refactored the application TSX in between. I've still got to do a bit of a review of this stuff. We can take that out. That's fine. I'm going to leave them in for now because I think it's going to use them in the next phase. So actually I'll leave that there and I'll leave that there. Okay. Image generators, move to use palette. Okay. Find best palette. Okay. Does it basically work? I guess it would be a good question to ask. Let's try. Have I got any loading screens knocking around? Good question. Where did I put them? I remember where I put them. Okay. Here's the same one I used last time. Exile. Okay, it's picked a palette. Okay, and no compilers. Okay, so I mentioned about the build flow. I need to get it doing proper build flow. It's not doing that yet, but things are still working. It's still using a palette. There's some code I haven't reviewed, which is bad, and I need to review because some of it I don't understand. And there's some unused stuff. But I think it might use the unused stuff and the stuff we're about to do to write the files out. As part of a save. We're not writing and reading binary files yet. We're just doing our initial creation. So I want to leave them there, and I want to let it continue to phase 3. Continue, please. I don't need to put please in. I've probably just burned off another part of the planet's atmosphere by those extra tokens. I shouldn't laugh. I mean, it's a serious issue. The environmental impact of this stuff. I am planning on doing an episode on, I don't want to call it ethics, but some of the broader stuff around AI, good and bad. So I am planning on doing a bit of an episode about that. I've talked about it in passing a few times and at the start of the series, but I think it's worth an episode. It's a big topic. It's also a topic I think that can get a bit performative. AI bad. Content stolen. It's stolen everything, and it's a little bit more nuanced than that. And I'm not saying bad things haven't happened, and you can see some of that playing out in the courts. Anthropic had to settle around that book copyright stuff, and have they paid enough? I don't know. It's definitely the big tech break the rules and then fix them afterwards through lobbying power and money, which is not good. It's really not good for sort of long-term health of society. But it's not. It's also been trained on stuff that was essentially put out for free. And people complain about that because they didn't see, if you look at code, for example, there's a lot of people, I don't even know how many people it is, but there is a set of people who, are kind of concerned about the code it's being trained on. But if you've put something out under an MIT license, you put it out there. The nuance is that those things ask for credit, and the AI, at what point has Claude Code credited any sources? Yet it's building things on sources, on things it's seen. That is potentially in breach of license. Is it genuinely transformative? Again, that's a difficult question to answer. Like, how much of it is transformed that it's doing now? How much of it is a direct copy? You can. And people have done this for books. I've seen it done with the code. I think I managed to do it with some code at some point. You can kind of force it into regurgitation. It's a big topic. My basic view is for developers is that yes, there is some stuff there that you should be concerned about, and some that could have real impact if it was to literally copy GPL code and put it in a commercial project. That's obviously a legal issue. It does have some actual impacts, but I think for developers, my view is this stuff is here, whether you like it or not. It's here. It's not going to be pulled. It's certainly not going to exist anymore. At least from a legal perspective, perhaps some costs start to play a part, but I don't think to a degree that it's going to go away for developers. So it's here. It's not going anywhere. And if you can become if a developer using AI is 2 times or 5 times as productive as a developer not using AI, basically the market's going to decide. Right? It's that simple to me. And I've been through transitions before. It is that simple. There's a reason there aren't assembler coders anymore. You do it from time to time in very niche situations. But that, when I was a kid, that was the mass market. Right? People wrote applications in assembler. Assembler programs don't exist anymore, really, on any scale. It got replaced by higher level languages, and not because higher level languages were better, but because higher level languages were more productive. Developers using them were more productive than assembly coders. Like, even overrode what some at the time would call bad code. Programs that were slower to run, were heavier on memory, because they weren't this kind of handcrafted, finely tuned byte level stuff, but they were cheaper to build. The market decided, and that's occurred again and again. It's happening with AI right now. So my advice to developers is get on board. If you want to make an ethical stance, that's fine, but I think you have to accept that it's a hill you're probably going to die on if you stand on it for too long. And that might be uncomfortable to some people. Maybe people think I'm an immoral, a-hole. Fine. I don't really mind. But I think the way to look at this stuff is not to fight the battle that has already been won, because that's what you're doing when you're fighting the current tranche of automation, but to look ahead and think about more automation coming down the tracks, societal impact, and how we get ahead of that as a society, because our governments are way behind. And that could be things like universal basic income, whatever. But that's the battle to be fighting, not the one that's already lost, which is why I describe it as performative. It's performative. It's not going to have any impact hopping up and down about LLMs, but you can have an impact by addressing things that haven't happened yet. Unfortunately, that requires people to actually engage their brain. Controversial take, but it does. It requires people to think and work to get ahead of that stuff. But that's where the difference is. If you want to make a difference, that's where the difference is to be made. Not on the battle that's been lost. The LLM battle has been lost. LLMs are here, they're not going anywhere. So yeah, my advice to developers off the back of all that is you need to adopt this stuff. Yes, there's problems with it. Yes. You need to adopt this stuff, else you are going to be unproductive compared to the person next to you who is using it. And the market will decide. And evidence shows over many years that the market decides generally in one direction, and that direction is productivity, efficiency, cost savings. I think people need to get on board. I didn't mean to digress this episode into ethics. I've kind of got ahead of myself. We'll explore it more fully in a future episode, but they're my thoughts on it. I would describe myself as a realist. I would describe myself as a realist, I guess. In any case, back to coding. Much more fun. Apparently it's done. I'm slightly dubious. We will see. Let's go back to the start. Let's get the Explorer up. I think we're probably going to have to go and see if it compiles. Let's just restart everything. No, I don't need to restart things, I don't think. I think we'll be fine. The hot loading should cover this change. Okay, that's just for cache being read out. We've got a palette thing. This should be what's new, really. Palette editor. Right, before I go into the imports one again, it really just seems to be unable to get the right path. Oh, it's just not being read. Okay, fine. Well, that's interesting, but it's not being read, but I guess it's been read in system palette view. Yeah, okay, where here it's got the path wrong. It just seems unable to find and resolve this path. How funny. It's always a level out. LMs. Okay, palette editor. Well, that's not used, and I bet they're not used. Okay. And interesting, I was talking about regurgitation. That to me is an example of regurgitation. it doesn't sort of think ahead, as it were. Like it didn't need those things, but they're there. And I suspect if we'd watched it build it, they were there from the start. And that's just because pattern is those things normally are there with these two things, and it puts them in there, and that's that. It's not thinking; it's drawing on patterns and predicting, which is why I think you see things like that. Why the path is constantly wrong is lost on me. Okay, I don't know if this is going to work, so I think the easiest thing to do is try this. Here's a palette block view. Okay, I bet it's the same path. Oh. Very funny. Things like that make me chuckle. Okay, fine. I mean, let's just see how it looks, I guess. Before I move on, I do want to just see if it's used these files. It is using read-write. It is using them now, look. And it'd be interesting to see if that's a problem. I suspect that's actually a TypeScript problem, and it might even be a WebStorm interpretation of TypeScript, which can be, I found, super aggressive. I think what I'll do is run it and see what happens. Okay, so let's go to it. Let's get rid of a chat and the absurdly large window. Okay, interesting. It seems to have done 4 blocks. It's not read. So first thing it's got wrong with it's not read the mode, is it? So we can't actually see it, but let's I can pop it open in code, can't I? So if I was to go to let's make it bigger. Okay, so first thing is mode 0 is in fact a 4-bit per pixel mode. It's the mode we've been using so far, and it's not got that right. So it thinks 4 blocks, 8-bit per pixels. That's not what we're dealing with. So we'll get to correct that. But it looks like it's picked up the common palette. Can't say I like the spacing very much down here, so we'll probably just think about that. I want to make it optional to show the indexes. Does the drag and drop work? No. Okay. Okay, not that surprised. It was quite a lot for it to do. Let's see if we can get it to fix the drag and drop first. No, let's get to fix the screen mode first. Okay. The mode is set to 0. Which is a 4-bit pixel mode. The palette editor is working in 8-bit per pixel mode. I've got that damn My Lovely Horse song in my head again. Yesterday was Saturday, which is when I recorded the last couple of episodes. Today it's Sunday, and so the next day, and I've got the Lovely Horse song in my head. I'm going to stop code because it's doing what I don't want it to do. I don't want it to make an assumption that the config isn't there. If you look at saying, the project config is no longer defined, the problem is the project config is no longer defined, not that. Not work around it. And I think that's a good example of, the AI has no sense of what is good or right. it's just, oh, here's an immediate problem. I'll fix it with this fix that's in this extremely localized area. It doesn't have that sense of architecture. It doesn't have that sense of systems. And interestingly, I think that's where the developer is still super important and how the role is changing. It's again pushing higher up the abstraction chain as we always have. Your role as developer now is more of a systems architect than a typist, shall I say? Not to devalue the work we've done for many years. We've not been just typists, but we've been in the weeds, and we're coming out of we're coming up a level again. Same old pattern, nothing new. Okay, great. So that's been fixed. We've got 4 bits per pixel. Great. I quite like how that is now. I could obviously think about refining it, but the drag and drop still not going to work, is it? Of course it's not, because we've not done anything to make it work. Great. The second issue is that. Oops, sorry. Sorry. Okay. The white screen, by the way, I think what we got a minute ago is because if I looked at the console, there'd be an error about undefined, and that's because the hot reloading hadn't reloaded the store, or the components were reloaded, but the store was still as it was, and the store had it undefined. So reload it, kicks in the code to reload the project, sets the config.json. That's why we got the white screen, and I refreshed it. Oh, nice. It works now. Let's let Claude know. It asked me to check, so it does work. A bit of a funny thing in the scroll. Look, what's that about? Might just be my mouse. Yeah, it's just my mouse. Okay, so we could go and say, awesome. Let's not pick that one because it's a very boring colour. So we can now go and pull out, we can build our palettes, which is great. Okay, I want to ask it to, in the bottom toolbar of the editor, can we add an option to show and hide tried saving this, of course, yet, so we'll try saving it when I've done a bit more on it. We'll see what happens. That's where the save is where we had the TypeScript type issue in WebStorm. My suspicion is it's going to work, and it's going to turn out to be. Sometimes what I found with TypeScript and web is that the TypeScript types, in theory, don't allow things to work that really do work that way in browser APIs and things, and I've often found I get that around some of the array types. What did I have it with recently? It might even have been in this project in one of the early episodes, perhaps with a memory bus. The shared memory array was a good example of that, where we had to do a bit of a circuitous cast chain to get TypeScript to say, oh, this is fine, when actually it was fine from a sort of JavaScript point of view and a functional point of view. I added a new toolbar. Okay, that would. It might be that this thing is actually in the editor container. I can't remember. So let's go into code. I mean, I've not looked at the code. Palette editor. No, it's there. Oh, yeah, it is there. No, it's not there. It's in the editor container. The save is in the editor container. Of course it is. Yeah, so I was right the first time around. It's here. Okay. What I'm going to do, I think, is because we're going to want to extend the bottom toolbar a few times. You know, we're going to want to put different controls and things there. I'm going to let it just drop it into editor container at the moment, but then I'm going to do another refactor just to make that more pluggable, so we can drop things into it from editors. Because what we're getting now is code where we've got things about file types in the toolbar, which just seems wrong to me. You know, we've abstracted that away already to put them in the editors. So we want the editors to be able to say, actually, I want to include something in this bottom toolbar. Yeah, I will do a bit of work, a little bit of refactor work to make that possible. But yeah, it's done. It'll put it in the editor container. Yeah, fine. It's still beaving away though, so we'll let it finish. It has finished, but there's an error. Okay, so let's just give it that error. A bit naughty of it. It's on 6, isn't it? Again, in theory, this is where the JetBrains integration would work great, because it'll have the context, and probably for this it would be okay, but so often I ask it to do things and it's just in completely the wrong space, but I'm very reticent to use it at the moment. I used to have a couple of contacts over there. Maybe I ought to see if I can get in touch with them. I don't know. We must know about it. It does indeed look correct. There's something wrong with this bit. Or maybe I was looking at the there we go, look, it's fixed that type thing as part of this. Yeah, and it was a TypeScript thing, a TypeScript type thing. It's quite a balmy space for it to navigate when you think about it. The sort of whole TypeScript, JavaScript world. I mean, what a Jenga tower we have constructed. You know, it's quite something. It's quite something. That's interesting. Okay, sure. It's there. That's interesting. Is it just web? It's just WebStorm. WebStorm taking its time to catch up. Okay, yeah, that is wrong. But it doesn't look conditional. Oh, it is conditional because up here we're going to return that needs moving. I will ask it to do the change, but that needs moving above this. I'll just do it. I'm sometimes curious as to what it will do. If I see the problem, I'm sometimes curious as to what it will do, because you can, you know, yeah, the block size thing is down here because you need to move these up. Yeah, okay, that's slightly awkward. I'm going to get the core to do it because it's going to save me some typing. It needs moving above there, but that means this thing needs to be, because the mode is as it is, that needs to use a default or something. You can see what I'm rambling on about. So let's just go line 60 of... This is one of the... I really like working with React, particularly compared to Angular. It just makes an awful lot more sense. But one of the things that is a bit painful at times is the hooks always have to be in the same order. Now, I get why they do have to be in the same order, but like not being able to just conditionally just exit, you know, an early return, can lead to some slightly contorted code where you need things, you know, in different orders. It just makes it a bit, you know, I mean, it's fine, it's moved it up, fine, you know, yeah, okay, fine, it's just done what it should do, defaulting a mode, fine, you know, so this thing's fine, but it's just, it feels contorted, right? I mean, it just feels a little bit contorted. And this, I assume, is now fixed. Yeah, okay. I've got quite a bit of code review, haven't I? I'm not proposing to do that on stream. You will all be bored senseless. How are we doing for time? We're doing pretty cool for time. Okay. Let's go back to this. Okay, I see save works. Let's just refresh everything. Let's open our palette. Again, like if I put this in normal size, there is absolutely loads of room. It's just that we're very zoomed in, so that it works well on YouTube. But we should be able to. Okay, save becomes enabled. Let's put a lime colour in there. Save it. Okay, no errors. Let's close that down. Let's reopen it. Okay, it's saved it. Let's reload the whole thing. I'll just refresh the browser. Cool, great. Yeah, we've got a palette editor. It's pretty basic, but we can edit palettes, right? I think what I'll do is sort of sleep on it, as it were. Yeah, I think actually what we don't need is, we don't need these blocks. We don't need the shading around here. So let me just... what looks off to me is that this is not aligned with that. That's really aggravating to me. So I'm going to capture the screenshot. And I don't think it's really needed at all. So let's go to Claude and say, great, that works. Can we rework the editor layout so that the light grey palette blocks, see attached image, is not there. Then the palette block colours will line up with the system block colours. Will all look nicer. It doesn't really need to know that bit, but you know. There's my screenshot. Okay, pop that into Claude and ask it to do its thing. And then I'll commit this. And as we've got a little bit of time, I will see if I can get it to include the C64 Spectrum BBC colours I talked about earlier. Great. Okay. okay, we can edit all 64 palette sets. Okay. Okay, so we need to make some room for this to work. And the reason I wanted to do the C64 BBC stuff after I'd done this is that I wanted to be able to see the palette before I decided what to take out of the palette to make room, because we've got a lot of colours in here and some are quite close. So for example, I think we don't need index 165 to index 175 as well as the two that are around it. So we're going to do some editing. Okay. Let me save what I've got because this could be interesting. Update the palette. No, it's not update the palette. I'm not telling you to do something. Yeah, before we move on, it's just worth reflecting, like, because I think this is a good example of kind of like human AI, and I can't believe I'm going to say this word, synergy. If we'd have left the AI to it, this would be a blancmange of code at this point. Like, it'd be hard to unpick, hard to walk through. I've said a few times in this episode, I need to spend some more time reviewing some of the new stuff. I haven't really done that yet. I tend to review things in the week, when I'm having my dinner and stuff, and Saturdays rolled into Sunday. I have not done that. I do have a house to renovate around all this, and a dog to walk, a lot. She's very active, so I've not done that, and I need to do that. But that aside, like this, I've essentially used the AI to do some typing for me, and I have then, I've given it the structure to work within. So I've prodded it into, I've done it. I've split things into a structure that makes more sense with editors, in a Project Explorer, and I've pulled the bones of a client into a shape that we can work with effectively within. And maybe the AI will be able to work around that structure, although they do find structure useful to guide them. But I certainly can't, and the humans, I don't think humans really can cope with hundreds of lists of files. It just doesn't really work. But I say, like with a Markdown, like using JSON to drive LLMs or any kind of. There's a new format. I think it's called Token Optimized Markup or something. TOMU, I forget. Which is like a slightly compressed format, which gives structure to LLMs. They like the structure. The structure is the structure is useful to them. You can provide, even though you're not doing the typing and the legwork, as it were. You're providing as a developer the structure, the architecture, and that kind of level of thinking and organisation, which, at this point at least, it just doesn't come from the coding assistance, not in any particularly useful way. But the two of you combined, you and your AI partner, become a really powerful, whole, mini team. Hopefully this is a good example of, you look at the last episode, the reorganisation here, how quickly we've added a palette editor in a way that, is broadly sane, and fits into our level of structure. We created the style guide. All those things are combining to give us, a very productive way to be working. In any case, let's see if we can do the palettes. Okay. So back into VS. Well, we need to get our ID up and VS Code up. So I need to make some space for 16 spectrum colours, 16 C64 colours. Well, actually black and white are going to be in there, aren't we, in both? So 14 colours, because we've got black and white in here already. And then the BBC has 8 colours, so 6 colours. Yeah, so 20 colours. I need to make room for 20 colours. Okay, so let's do this in VS Code. Let's create a new agents everywhere. Let's create a new prompt integrating classic 8-bit computer colours. I want to rework with the system palette. And let's tell it where that is. Oh dear, it's in the console, that's why I'm not finding it. To include, let's make it marked down. Okay, to include some classic 8-bit computer colours. Specifically, I want to include the palettes for the BBC Micro, Commodore 64, and Sinclair Spectrum. 48K Sinclair Spectrum. Now, should I give it the colours or should I trust it to find them? Oh dear. Let's go and get the colours. I did do a quick looking around this morning. Okay, so spectrum colours are we already have black and white colours in our palette, so we need to include the following. Spectrum so okay, so this is boring. I'm pulling this from Wikipedia. I could probably find a more efficient way to do this, but I'm halfway through now. Maybe I couldn't, it's a bit of a weirdly arranged table. But I love the way the spectrum has a concept of bright black as one of the colours. Very funny. Oh, bright blue, I'm cutting the wrong things now. Bright blue, bright red, bright magenta, bright green, oh, no. Bright cyan, and bright yellow. So that should be, I think, 14 colours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13 colours. What have I missed? Blue, red, magenta, green. Maybe it's counted wrong. Cyan, yellow, sort of murky white. Blue, red, magenta, green, cyan, yellow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Ah, because the spectrum has 2 blacks and it's in palettes. There's 2 blacks. Bizarrely. So yes, it's 13 colours for the spectrum. First, we need 13 colours. Okay, BBC. BBC didn't have many colours, so this should be easy. BBC palette. Yeah, the BBC had a bit of a weird. It had sort of 8 normal colours and 8 flashing colours, which was a bit weird, really. The flashing colours did get used for quite some inventive purposes, so yeah, there was clearly some method to the madness. They're just the combinations. They're all like the primaries. They're all at they're all basically at the points of the colour kind of cube. So actually, what we've actually got is, I could probably do this without actually looking it up. So I can't find a handy table. No. I do need to do that in a minute, but let's do it in a sort of semi-logical way. I have black and there's one I'm missing. So then, yeah, so it had those colours and then black and white as well. So for 8 colours. So they're all kind of at the edges of the colour spectrum, basically, on BBC. And let's see, 64 colours. I think I've got this one open from earlier, but I don't know if I have the RGB for it. I bet the AI could give it to me. Ask Claude. Can you give me the C64 colours as a simple hex code set, e.g. hash? I could probably do that for viewers too. I've just got Claude rumbling away in my browser. It's giving me a handy table when I didn't ask it for a table. Right, thank you. And I asked it to exclude black and white. Okay, cool. Where's the C64 palette? It also helpfully reminded me that the C64 colours are analog, and these are approximations, and they would differ between NTSC and PAL. But we've got some colours. Okay, so we should have 14 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so we've got 14 plus 13 is 27, plus 6 is 33. Okay. We need to have 33 colours, so need to make space for them. Can you remove these blocks? So we need to remove, interestingly, so that's 33 colours, and each of the kind of strips of colours we've got in the editor are 11 colours. Tailwind is in blocks of 11. So we need to remove a couple of blocks of colour. So I think we should probably remove, I mean, these are very similar. I think we should remove this block here, so 22 to 32. 22 to 32. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. Okay, so move that block. I definitely don't need so much purple. Let's remove this block 165. to 175. Okay, and then we don't need all these variants of grey, so we could remove this block here, 198 to 208. Be interesting to see how this works out. Zero to yeah, so then we get that we pat down 0 to 252. Right, let's see if that can work. Slightly hairy prompt to create. Okay, pop that in there. Just check I have committed because this could make a right hash of our palette. Okay, let's see what happens. I'll spare you any of my diatribes in this core session and snippet. Okay, it's done. Allegedly. Let's see what happens. Let's go into the palette editor. I am going to delete my awesome project because no, I can't do that, can I? What am I talking about? Right, that's the next step. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's open the default.p bin again. I think we could see them there. So it's compressed things down, and we've got the colours here, and it looks like that is spectrum. Yeah, spectrum. And we've got BBC. No, there's BBC. Spectrum, the two sort of sets of hues. BBC, it's quite limited palette. It's 6 colour palette, essentially black and white. But we've lost black and white on the end, so it's chopped off. Right, but it's chopped off the end. Okay, so not quite right. Okay. I should probably have said you need to keep it. You need to keep the same number of colours. But that's one of those things, like, you just kind of, like, again, there's no thinking going on here. Like, maybe my assumptions were not that clear, but one of the assumptions I'm carrying in my head, as with some architecture, is that it's got 256 colours in the system palette. And that's actually written down somewhere, but it's yeah. It doesn't have that sense of whole, like I was saying earlier. It doesn't have that sense of vision for the system. And in my experience, you can specify all you like, but it can't keep these things in its head. So it does things like this, which surprise you. And maybe that'll get better. I'm not convinced it will, to be honest. I think if you look at the sort of performance curve in terms of, I don't even want to call it thinking ability, but quality, in terms of its quality. Like, there was a massive uptick, like ChatGPT 3 to 4 was huge, but it's kind of on that, it's flattening out, it's flattening out model quality, fundamental model improvement is flattening out in terms of its improvement. And despite Sam Altman's absolute codswallop, it is not AGI. He was busy trying to reframe things last year. Earlier this year. If you follow the sort of tech news and some of these people, he was busy trying to reframe. He was busy trying to reframe what AGI, artificial general intelligence, essentially redefine it so that it meant an LLM. It's just such typical tech bro. It's horrible. Makes me nauseous. It's such codswallop. It's the sort of, well, not even technical equivalent, but it's basically that here's how we like to think about it. In other words, this is the thing that will make us the most possible money if you'll just believe it. It's hilarious. It's pitiful, in my humble opinion. I find it pitiful. Okay, it's still not doing quite what we want. It's still not quite right. This is one of those occasions where it might be better just to, having understood how it's interpreting my instructions, is to reset and go back to the instructions and make them better. But I'll see what happens off the back of this, and then we will see. I promised no more diatribes, but I couldn't help myself. I have an almost visceral reaction to people who do this. I'm a wise thought leader, and all the CEOs, big CEOs, seem to do it on stage. These mannerisms, which are just, I find them quite horrible, so insincere. And they're clearly coached to do it. I mean, maybe it works. I don't know. It's sort of taken en masse. Maybe it works, but it's completely losing the plot here. So I'm looking at what's doing. It's completely losing the plot. So I think this is one of those situations where we go, actually, thanks a lot, but we're going to try this again. So we have a commit point, and we will use our commit point. Okay, let's go to WebStorm. I'm going to quit that context completely, and I'm just going to ask it to, it's all going to be in a client somewhere. Actually, it's not in a client, so the system palette. Let's just do the source, git. We're going to roll back. Let's only change the system palette, interestingly. Okay, so I guess it's undone the WebGL stuff because it went back to 255 colors. Okay, yeah, originally it compressed it to 252 colors or whatever it decided to do, 253 colors, and it adjusted code to account for being less colors. But now we're back to 256 colors, so it's put it back, but the system palette is still not right. So let's go into here. Pack down. leave colours. If we go into the editor, we should see it's back as it was, and it's colours 253, 254, and 255. The last three colours in place. Then fill in the gap. Pat down colours and isn't possible. Okay, let's see if that helps. Okay, try it again. I thought I was right. The math works perfectly. This is one of those things where it's probably as quick for me to have done it manually, to be honest. But as we're using AI to build this console, I'll use AI to build the console. Okay, let's see if our reworked prompt has got it right. So it looks better. Okay, so what have we got? Spectrum, BBC, Commodore 64, and then our colours as well. Okay, great, and this looks correct to me. Okay, great. So I'm going to commit that. Okay, that's that. The next thing I'm going to ask it to do is I want to actually change it so that our default.pbin, we created it with blank colours. Let's go to code. We created our retro.pbin with blank colours, but actually I want to create it with blank colour, with essentially 3 blocks defined as these retro, as the 8-bit systems. So let's do a new one. Update. Okay. Update the. Goodness, it's in the. So it's in here. Okay, standardize. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So here. So we want to update this so it actually now uses the correct color indexes. Update the code in. I put this to markdown. I could have a shortcut for that. Block 0 should be colours. Right, pull these out of the here. It should be colours. I'll start with BBC because it was my computer of choice. So colours 254 should be colour indexes 254, 255. So that's 254, 255, black and white, and then 233, 235, 236, 237, 238, and how is that? That should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're going to fill it with black, so 254, 254, 254. And I stop counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're going to put block 1 should be colour indexes 254, 255. And then we're going to put in the spectrum, so 220 to 232. Actually 16, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. What have I missed? 220. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I say 13 because it has 2 blacks in. It keeps catching me out because it has the spectrum has 2 blacks in, which keeps throwing out my counting. And then we want to put in the Commodore colours, so it's 239, isn't it? Every time that's caught me out. And 252. I think 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, so that's the Commodore colours. Right, so I think that's it really. So this should palette file should be zeroed. This should, the idea is this will create as a default.pbin. Okay. I'm going to go look at what it's done here because I don't understand why it's done something there. They're not variable row infos, they're just palette blocks. So we're going to look at that. I hadn't realised it changed that, but let's finish what we're doing. Oh, didn't mean to do that. We can always revert it. We're able to see from our screen test and things if it's working. Quickly see if it's working. What's interesting now is we should be able to load in sort of retro gaming screens with our little import tool, and the colour should basically match now. So it'll be quite interesting to see how this goes. I am once again going to delete my awesome project so we can create a new one and see if we've got the palettes in place. Okay, so let's go to our console, refresh everything. It should say, yeah, okay, create new. Create that project, please. Create it in code, yes. Okay, let's open the pbin. Okay, great. So we've now got BBC colours, no flashing colours. Obviously, we could flash colours by, we could create the flashing palette by actually creating block 1 with these colours set at the top, if that makes sense. And then you just toggle the 2 palettes to flash. So I might actually update things so we get the flashing palette. Essentially, it would, from memory, God, so long ago, but from memory, it would go black colour, black colour. God, so long ago. Yeah, so we've got Spectrum and C64 colours now, which is great. Yeah, I'm actually going to shift this a little bit so it's yeah. So actually, we're going to do it so that at 16, 32, 48. And what I'm actually going to do is duplicate it. So then I'll just put a little comment in here. This is BBC. Spectrum 64. Okay, so let's just delete my awesome project again. Okay. Yeah, okay, I did that really nice. I come in here, create new, awesome project, pbin. Okay, so now we've got essentially a BBC palette with which we could flash by swapping the palettes. To sort of simulate the BBC flash. And we've got Spectrum, 2 blacks, and maybe we should follow the Spectrum order, like the black would be in front of that grey. Yeah, let's follow the Spectrum order. So we've got Spectrum, we've got C64, so let's just shift that up a little bit. The Spectrum, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so it's in here. So that should be more like the Spectrum now. So again, delete my awesome project and go back to here, refresh the browser, create new, my awesome project, create the project, yes please, default.pbin. Okay, we've got BBC, we've got the Spectrum, it's 2 blacks, better arranged, and we've got the C64. Great, so we've essentially got some retro colours now. Let's just see if we can do an import of one of our game screens. I'll use Exile again. Duets. I think I grabbed Robocop. Yeah, I've got Robocop. Okay, if anybody remembers Ocean Software's Robocop, says Robocop. Let's process the image. Okay, it's still not quite picked the right colours because it's gone crazy, and it should have picked closer colours. So that's probably worth looking at because it's a 16 pixel, it's a 16 colour bitmap. It's picked crazy colours, but it is using a nearest colour algorithm, so I'm not quite sure what's happened there. Let's try Exile. That looks right. So that's right. So for the BBC, it's picking the BBC colours correctly by the looks of it. I wonder if it's... I can imagine what's happening on the Robocop one. I could be wrong. Let's just test it first. Okay, great. It's not quite right though. Again, look, I think I know what's happening though. So what's happening is I am converting the colours after resizing the image. So I think the image gets resized, and you get some of that sort of bleed through across. If you resize in a paint program, it adjusts the image. It's not a straight resize, as it were. So that introduces some additional colours, I think. Yeah, and then we apply the colours, and it's dithering around those bits there. And I just think because of the way Robocop is made up, that makes it worse. So we'll probably revisit that bit of code at some point so that it's cleaner. We essentially want to do a resize without introducing any new colours, which might be just a case of actually setting the image to 4-bit per pixel. If we can, I've never tried to do this in PNG land, so which you can't pick any new colours. I've never tried to do that. I guess it's something we could try. I will have a look and a bit think about that. In any case, that's really it for this episode. We've got a palette editor, which is great. Let me just turn the debug off and turn the AI off. We've got a palette editor, which is great. And actually, I had asked it to let me drag between those, and that doesn't work. But we'll come back to that. That's will be here forever. I'll put a little tweak I'll make out of camera. We have a palette editor. We've got an assembly editor. We've got a palette editor. We can move between them. We can save things. We can't reuse the palettes yet because we need to be able to assemble our cartridge. So you can imagine that's coming up soon. Maybe we should do that in the next episode before moving on to the sprite editor. Start cartridge assembly and load palettes in as part of that. But yeah, hopefully that's interesting. We've covered quite a bit of ground again. Not done much typing, which always makes me happy. I wish I'd known about. I wish AI had been invented 20 years ago because I probably wouldn't have arthritis in my finger and thumb from so much keyboard and mouse usage. So yeah, maybe it's a cure for IT professional arthritis. Yeah, great. Hopefully that's interesting. It's starting to look like a real application now. It's doing real things. So yeah, we shall pick it up in the next episode. Thanks for watching.